Thank you.
So for the next item, I would propose moving up the special presentation from the Avenal landfill.
Sounds good. So item number 6, we're gonna move item B. Next,
Have a seat right here,
a
George.
special presentation report by Avenal Landfill, special report by George Anderson, site manager.
Go ahead, George. Sorry to keep you waiting so long.
Not a problem, Honorable Mayor, members of the council, city manager, Mr. Attorney. Thank you for having me tonight. Thought it was important to come in. It kind of threw me off. I was thinking we were going to be back there. I was going to do some art for you guys, but I'll try to talk through it. So I just wanted to come tonight and give you guys an update on where we're at the landfill, what we're doing, why we're still visual to the community. It's important to make sure. We were hoping that by December, we would be a little bit more accelerated than what we are right now with the western front of the landfill. So obviously, as you're traveling on 269, headed out of town, you can look to the right and see that the landfill, the new cell that we constructed that we talked about a year ago, is probably 12 to 14 feet above sea level at this point, basically the ground level. We were hoping we'd be about 28 feet, and I'm measurable feet. So we were hoping we'd be a little bit higher. So we lost some soil projects that we thought we were going to receive that would have filled that area up a little bit quicker. So unfortunately, the amount of rain that we got within an 18-hour period pulled away a lot of the soil projects that people had, and it delayed it, and they're drying it out. So we're hoping that eventually that stuff will come back to us, and then we can build that area up. So as I stated a while back, the landfill's in the most vulnerable position that it's ever been in and ever will be in. They knew whenever they started the project coming above sea level to raise it up to the expansion of 1,300 feet, that it would get ugly at this point as we come towards town and we're at the closest point. So what we've decided to do, what Waste Connections has decided to do, is to get that area as fast as we can filled up, get that front section, instead of cutting the new cell that is continued from 3A, which is where we're at now. It would have gone to 3B and then 3C. We're going to finish that front part, get that front western front done, do some landscape, and then we're going to move back to the far, it would be the northeast corner of the landfill. So that would get us in phase 6A. So, unfortunately, years down the road, that will come back around to phase 3B and phase 3C again. At some point, it'll have to be addressed and have to be filled. So it'll be visual to the south. But right now, we can get that western front completed. Hopefully, within 21, we'll get that done. We're going to start the landscape project this April, or March and April. So we budgeted for that last year. So we're not 100% sure where we're going to put it. I'm actually going to approach council and maybe get some ideas from you guys as well, and maybe some members of the community on where we'd like to see some trees placed or so on and so forth. But we're going to try to get that fixed up, do some landscaping. So we budgeted quite a bit for that. So we're also going to landscape. I don't know if you guys remember 2 years ago, we had a big fire that was on the Chevron side, and it kind of wiped out our irrigation system on the entryway. As you're entering, it'd be to your left-hand side. The bottom portion stayed right above it, went away. So we added that into this year's budget, and hopefully we'll get some trees replaced in that area to try to beautify the entry on that side. So I have a couple things that I'd like to talk about with the view. We're trying to keep that wall, as we call it, a visual barrier between the community and us. And unfortunately, as I said, as vulnerable as the landfill is at this point, it kind of comes to a corner. So when we build a visual wall, we're very, very visual. It's very obvious and it's unfortunate, but we have to get to that point. Old saying, if you want to get it done, you got to get it started. So we started it and we want to get it done. So as we start building our walls, when you do an outside barrier of a landfill, being in the garbage business 30 years, I had to learn the hard way a lot of times. But as you build a visual wall, that visual wall has to be built with MSW. You can't soil those walls, otherwise you're looking at a prolonged future problem of collapse or sinkage. So we make sure that our compaction rate and our density and our flyovers make sure that we get a good picture of what's going on and a three-dimensional picture of what's going on in the ground so we can see what's happening. So as we build that visual wall, a lot of MSW, municipal solid waste, which is trash, stuff you throw away at home, is built on that wall. So we build that on a 4-foot layer of soil and a 2-foot layer of gravel. And we make sure that we have that 4-foot barrier on that outside wall so that we don't have any erosion, that trash will eventually can be seen. So we do that very cautiously. We approach it very cautiously. Unfortunately, it's the most visual portion of what we do. So as we're moving forward into March and April and May, we're going to be building that visual wall on that far southwest corner. And so we're going to probably get a lot of phone calls and we're probably going to get a lot of complaints, but we continue to be compliant. We continue to do the right thing at the right time for the right reason. So we're not going to cut corners because we get complaints and calls. We're going to continue to do what we're supposed to do to operate and maintain a landfill in a safe manner for our community. So I'm here to let you guys know that we are going to be visual going into the next 3 to 4 months, getting that visual wall built. And we're hoping that we can wrap that corner and get up another 24 feet within the next 6 months. And then if we can add on to that and get that last 12 feet, we'll be up to the maximum height and we can finish off that western front. And then hopefully by the end of 21, the excavation project and the new liner is in place on phase 6A and we can move back there and we'll be out of sight. I don't like to use the phrase out of sight, out of mind, because I want people to understand what we do on a daily basis and why we do it. So with that being said, I want to mention that we're gaining ground with people calling us and wanting to tour the facility. We've done quite a few of them. 5 years brought 0, and the last few months brought about 28 people from the community that came out and were thoroughly impressed with what we do, why we do it, our odor control system, our misting system that's been in effect, that's been working wonders. Just being proactive with those types of things for the community because of the concern of the community was one of our most important approaches as we came into 21. So things are going good at the landfill. Things are actually going great at the landfill. We were awarded an Environmental Excellence Award by our chief engineers. That meant a lot to us because we're very compliant in what we do, very thorough in what we do. So with that being said, I'll open it up to any questions that you might have.
Thanks. Are there any questions for George?
Yeah, George, going back to the, actually moving forward to March, April on the vegetation, just to make sure that my understanding is correct, what kind of vegetation will be done to the landfill?
So we're not 100, we know what we have budgeted for landscape. We're not 100% sure what we want to put in there for landscape. So actually in the next month, or hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I'll be reaching out to you guys to try to get that answered. So, in the past, oleanders were thought to be a perfume agent. They put off a pleasant smell. With the ground that we have, they're just not growing properly. They're just not doing what they're supposed to do. So we thought pine trees. We've had some of the people who have visited us, we've asked that question. And they've said, put redwoods and, so within the capabilities of what we can do, we'll definitely take those comments, take them serious, and try to get something in there that the people want to see.
Okay, I, just from quickly revising the contract, the way I read it, unless I'm mistaken, and I don't want to, make a comment that will be seen otherwise, but I understand it would be grass, to avoid the effects of erosion. Is that correct? Would it be grass on that?
Well, there's always, I can't go back and speak for the people who actually worded, but I know that in the contract, it speaks of vegetation. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, but as you're going up, if you glance up to the very top of the landfill, you'll see some kind of dark brown stuff that we have. That's 100% chipped green waste. So if you see the vegetation that's on the front western portion, that's where that came from. So if you take 100% green waste, chipped green waste, and you spread it out, eventually with rains and everything, that becomes your grass, your vegetation, right? So that is definitely erosion control. So that's what we want to do. Unfortunately, we got a lot of complaints whenever we put the brown stuff out. Everybody was calling and saying, hey, you guys are putting something out that we don't know about. So we are still going to do the vegetation. We don't want to do it on that western front until we have that whole corner complete. So one thing that we're going to do whenever that is complete is we're going to do the, it escapes me now, but the green stuff that they spray.
Yeah.
I can't think of what it is,
I
but
don't.
that's pretty good for vegetation, but the chipped green waste is better. So we're hoping that a mixture of both of those eventually will create the vegetation in the front of that. But definitely input from everybody on the landscape, what we want to do and where we want to go. And I believe we're up to about $50,000 worth of budgeted capital for landscape. So, which is quite costly, I found out in the last few days.
Mhm. Yeah, I think we all need to work together, maybe some ground covers, something like you mentioned, only others, but it is hard to, find the perfect plants or bushes or trees with that soil there. So we need probably maybe make some studies and see what will grow best there, something that will help with the
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm doing some research into that. And listen, I'm with you guys. I have no idea whose idea it was to plant pistachio trees up there along that front western edge, but pistachio trees take 10 years to produce their fruit and longer than that to grow to a large size. So I don't know where that idea came from. Definitely wasn't mine, but we're going to try to definitely make it more pleasant to the eye as we move forward.
Moses, if you get a chance, just would you be able to read that specific clause on to revise whenever you get a chance? Not today, whatever, just to make sure that it's whatever vegetation is going to be put in is compliant with the initial lease, the contract. I just want to make sure that's compliant.
And I have that. I can address that too, because, you also have to understand that native soils go into the ground. So I believe that it's called hydro seeding. So I believe that whole western front was hydro seeded at one time. It was also, which is in the contract, it was also a soil buttress. So as soils come in and you get different types of soils, you're going to get different types of growth, which is why you see it on one edge of the landfill and not the other. So it's really important to get that chipped green waste, which is that dark bark. It's really important to get that on that end so that we can get growth there. So it's quite costly, and we search and look for companies, Katurgans, San Miguel Garbage, a lot of customers that get the green waste, that sort through it, make sure it's 100% green waste, chip it, and then they bring it to us. So as long as we can continue to do that process, we have the backside almost filled. We just did the backside as an experiment, but it's starting to work there. So we know that it's going to work on that front section. If we can get that bark down and then eventually hydro seed all of that, it's going to be great.
Since you brought up the issue about soil, I was concerned about the soil that's being brought into that landfill to cover that dirt. Can you explain to us a little bit more about the soil that's getting brought in to cover that trash?
Yeah, absolutely. So soil that is brought in, is analyzed, has analyticals done to it before it can actually go through the process of going to a landfill. So we're a class 3 landfill, we're non-hazardous landfill, so we can't accept soil that is beyond VOCs, contaminant, diseases, or anything else that it's tested for. And there's a series, I don't have it with me, but there's a protocol that it has to go through. So once those soils, once a company says we have soil, either it was being dug from a future well or it's coming from somebody's backyard, no matter what it is, it has to be analyzed. So once that soil is analyzed, it passed analyzation, there's a thing called waste bits that they have to go on. We set up a profile for that person. That profile gets checked to make sure that they have proper manifestation forms to bring that soil in. Once that soil is deemed non-hazardous, then we allow it into the landfill. So even though we allow it in and it's non-hazardous, whole 9 yards, we still place it over a lined area. So the lined area that we have, actually now every area will be lined. There's portions of the landfill that are unlined, and we make sure that we don't put any soil there. It's just a rule of thumb with landfills that soil goes on a lined area. So that's what we do, but we still make them go through the VOC process and the analyzation process.
So by the time the soil gets to the landfill, you already know that's been certified to be there at a landfill.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it goes, not only does it go through an analytical company, we have people that go to the sites that confirm that the testing is coming from that soil, so on and so forth.
What could happen if by accident load gets through?
That's why we put it on a lined area.
Okay.
So in Avenal, you don't really have a worry because the groundwater doesn't support the city. The aqueduct supports the city, but we still go through the line process, which is a multi-million-dollar task, but we have that in place for a reason. So we take every precaution to avoid, make sure the analyticals are done, the companies are on waste bits and doing the right thing, the right time for the right reason. That's my saying. But with that said, I don't think anything can sneak past us. So they have to come on our scale. They have to have that manifestation form. We check that ID number. We check their waste bits number. We confirm it. Once we confirm it, then we allow them to go. And then once it gets to the top, we
So they
also
go
do.
through an extensive process of
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just a
pick up
just
dirt, picking
fly
the
by
truck and bring it.
our scale and do
Yeah.
what you want. We're legit.
I think this is the one you're referring to, lessee. It's paragraph J. It says lessee shall be responsible for watering and maintenance necessary to sustain the growth and spread of vegetative cover at the landfill surfaces as required for erosion control. Is that the portion?
So what would be your interpretation of that clause? Would that be like, this is, if this is the wall of the landfill, would that be like, for instance, vegetation here, or would it be the bottom of it? What would be your?
This seems pretty broad. I mean, this is a broad sentence. It doesn't seem to limit in scope where we're talking about. So
So if I can add to that, so the whole western front has vegetation with the growth of the oleanders and the pistachio trees. And then we have what they call a V ditch. It's a concrete ditch. That's a drainage for water. And then we have our western road. Then your slopes start. If you notice, that first slope has vegetation on it. So the second slope, third slope, I think happened in 2017, 18. That was hydro-seeded. So the north end took, the south end not as much. And then the next ones are still awaiting hydro seeding. So it will all absolutely be done at some point or another.
Another issue that was brought up was the height of the
Mhm.
highest peak.
Yep.
For some reason, I think they think they're still adding to that peak.
In reality, they are still adding to that peak.
How much more?
So I like to go back to the beginning of that. So there's a lot of things that happened in the last few days that talked about the expansion of this landfill and this city. But So the landfill's expansion is the elevation of 1,300 feet from sea level, right? So the landfill is now at approximately 1,200 feet. So that doesn't mean that another 100 feet is going up, but it does mean that there's 2 more layers of trash that can go up there. And then you have to leave an open area for post-closure. So, and when you're looking at what you're looking at now, you're looking at the first, really, as many years as it's been there, you're looking at the first phase of the landfill. So as that western front gets completed and we move to the back, the exact same look of what you see will happen in the back. And then eventually the middle gets covered, right? And then you have a complete cap and a cap space. And then if there's not vegetation there and at the closure time or whatever, then it has to be trucked in and everything has to be completed properly. So with that being said, the elevation is going to be 1,300 feet. I wasn't here for that, so I can't answer to a lot of the questions with the expansion project. Expansion projects happen all the time. Avenal Landfill happens to be within the city limits of the city, so it's very hard to manage that as well. There's a lot of cities throughout California who are very proud of their landfills, and I believe we have so much support in this community, a lot of good people in this community, and as of late, a lot of phone calls from a lot of people who are supporting us. It's very hard to keep everybody happy. I won't mention names, but there's a handful of people who just want to throw stones to throw stones. The fact of the matter is, if you look at the history of the Avenal Regional Landfill, it's one of the best landfills in the state of California as far as compliance record. It's one of the best landfills in the United States as far as violations. Violations happen for a number of reasons. It's how you address them, how you fix them. It's how you react to it. It's how you react to your community whenever they have questions. So again, my door is always open, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I encourage anybody and everybody to come up and ask questions. Look at our landscape plan. We have that addresses that sentence. We have a booklet that shows what it should look like, shows what we hope that it's going to look like. It takes time. I've been here 5 years. I'm really proud of the work that we've done. I'm really proud of the conversations that we've had with the Air Board. Really proud of the conversations we've had with our LEA. They believe in us. They support us. And we're compliant. We're compliant for a reason, because we do the right thing at the right time for the right reason. Avenal Landfill is a bursting to receive more, create more revenue, and create more funds for this community. So there's hopefully some good things in the future happening that can make that happen. And we hope that the community thrives on what we're able to do to do our part as a good neighbor to support this community. So you guys got me going. I was here just to talk about our visual, but I'm here to also answer any questions. And
I appreciate it. Thank you.
so anything else?
Any other questions?
Last one from, would you mind, I think we're all aware of the last time when Mayor also made a video to explain that particular violation. Can you explain, just so some community members know how it was handled?
How the what?
How it was handled?
The situation there.
We went up to the landfill where we thought there was a possible violation.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. So we have a process for our haulers that haul trash that come onto our scale, and we do periodic load checks. However, if a load gets past our inbound scale and it gets to the top, our operators are very keen, pretty aware, unless there's something odd going on, our operators are usually telling the truck drivers where they want their load placed. So this particular load that came on our inbound scale had normal looking trash on the very top of it. So there was no red flags. As they went up and the load started coming out of the truck, red bags are red flags for us. And we have a sign in my office that said red bags, red flags. So medical waste is the first thing that comes to mind. So whenever my operators call an all stop, it's a very serious matter. So an all stop is called. When an all stop is called, traffic is halted. Everybody freezes where they're at until the person that calls the all stop says, okay, we're safe to move. In this situation, it took about 10 or 15 minutes. So I moved because I was worried about my operators. So as I was going up, the person who called the all stop came down and said, hey, listen, I think we got medical waste here. It could be an issue. I've cordoned off the area. I've asked the driver to stand still. So we approached the area and I absolutely believed that we had a possible medical waste issue. So in our joint technical document, we are allowed to take medical waste if it's been processed properly. It's called autoclave. So they take it to a certain temperature. Usually the stuff kind of melts up. They make it non-hazardous. A landfill can accept it. This didn't look like autoclaved medical waste to me. So I called my LEA, which is who I get advisement from. I called my air board. I called everybody I could think of. I called my wife. I was like, this is it, to me, it's ridiculous looking. I don't want anybody near it. So we cordoned off the area. We called the city manager. Mr. Mayor came up. They got to see what we believed was a red flag. It took hours to get the proper documentation, but this stuff wasn't an autoclaved load. So we don't see it very much. So we were kind of taken back a little bit. I've seen about 2 or 3 autoclave loads, and usually the plastic bags have melted away or so on and so forth. So we got an explanation that the autoclave load that was now deemed non-hazardous, the bags had been separated and they were added to it with some other trash. So I took guidance from the LEA and the air board, and we got the proper documentation that it was autoclave. So we did bury that load. But I'll do the same thing again. If I see the same thing, I'm not going to bury something that I have questions about.
That's a good thing to do. So we sent it in there, we're up there. So that was a good thing to, same time inform the community what's going on.
Yeah, I think city manager and the mayor was there when I told our LEA that she was responsible for that load, that, I wasn't, if we got the proper documentation, I would take her guidance, and I did.
Yeah, I believe that that day we were very concerned, city manager, myself, and we called George, and he agreed for us to go and visit and take a look ourselves. So I do believe in transparency.
Yeah.
We're very concerned also, and that's why we made that video, to let the community know that at that time there was no immediate harm to the public health.
Yeah.
So we will be working closely with the management at the landfill, and we will address any issue that may be helpful to our community.
Yeah.
I wanna make that
I
clear.
just might add, you guys got me going, so I just might add, I managed Mid-Valley Disposal out here on the western side for years. I owned my own hauling garbage company for years. And managing the landfill has been a huge experience for me. I don't have to be here. I want to be here. I love this community. I've been here since, I think, 2009 or 10. I started with Mid-Valley, and I decided to make the move to this area. But I'm here because I want to be. And, I don't lose sleep at night because I know that we do the right thing. And I know how compliant we are. And I like to say, and I don't want this misinterpreted, there's some good people in this community, and there's some people who have been misled. And it's unfortunate. But I would also like to say that a lot of people in this community support us. And this landfill, it's here. It's been here since 1939. And somebody decided to go dig a hole and burn trash in it. And then they didn't burn it one day, and that became the norm, and then that creates methane gas. There's been a lot of trash placed in that landfill that would be harmful to this community if not for the system that is in place. So I'm going to go ahead and mention it, Tony. So,
You saved my headaches for today.
so it's,
Bad.
yeah, sorry. I know Scott Davis and the chief are probably waiting for me to shut up, but you guys got me going, I'll go. So it's my job to create volume for this landfill. Okay, the expansion was done. Wasn't me. I'm running the landfill. It's my job to create volume so we create revenue, so we create more dollars and cents for this community. As long as we do that the right way and we follow the rules and the regulations and we're compliant within what we do on a day-to-day basis, I'm going to continue to do that. And I might as well make the announcement now, but it's non-contractual, but we just received on paper, it would be 25,500 tons annually from Kings Waste and Recycling Authority, which is going to create more revenue for this community and more things that we can do for the people of this community. Doesn't matter what I have to go through on a day-to-day basis with people who throw stones and make phone calls. I'm going to continue to do my job, and I'm going to continue to create volume, and I'm going to continue to create revenue for this community because that's what I was hired to do. So again, I don't lose much sleep at night. My team that all lives here in Avenal doesn't lose much sleep at night. But I can tell you that my wife is sick and tired of the date nights on top of the Avenal landfill because I've been here at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. I've been here and I've been consistent for the last year. And I know that the process that we have works. Being proactive and putting a misting system in was a great idea. It works. The stuff that we buy, the solvent that we buy that goes into that is an organic citrus that humans digest every day. And it actually goes and emulsifies on things that it clings to. So I've probably already said too much. I'll probably receive a whole lot of phone calls tomorrow.
No.
But that's okay. That's what I'm here for. Our air board does its due diligence every time it receives a phone call, no matter who it receives the phone call from. It was very satisfying to me to hear the air board tell me that they couldn't validate any. And I'll say that again, they couldn't validate any. Because we do the right thing at the right time for the right reason. And if everybody who decides that it's time to pick up a phone and call somebody or throw a stone at us, just come up and visit us. If you don't like what you see, or you think you smell something there, we'll address it and we'll fix it. We're a landfill. If I tell you we never had an odor, I'm lying to you. I told you guys all that before. So I've probably already gotten in too deep. I'm probably sinking right now, but I love this community. I'm here for this community, and I want everybody to know that what the landfill is all about. You know, I'm so satisfied in the 28 people that came up that when we were done with the tour, I don't ask anybody to give me their opinion of my landfill. I don't ask them to address anything that they've seen unless it was negative. Tell me the bad things you've seen. Tell me if you smelt any odors. I bring them within 10 feet of our work face. I think you were there. I think you were there. I think you guys said you couldn't smell a darn thing. We spray that thing daily before we use it. We spray the trash that goes on it. We spray it at lunchtime. We spray it as more trash goes on it. We spray it at the end of the day. It works. It's an emulsifier. It works. And we're going to continue to do that. We're continue to press on. We're going to continue to search for more volume. So as we create more volume, the landfill may close sooner. If it closes sooner, it means that revenue ceases in the community. But for 20 years after that, myself, my team, and Waste Connections has a responsibility of continuing to be there. And we place dollars and cents away every day to ensure that for 20 years after it closes, that we'll be able to do that and stand by this community as we do. So It's easy to get me going. You guys know that. And I apologize for taking more time. Scott, Chief, you guys out there, I know you're telling me to shut up. This new MSW that we found is out there. There's more out there. It's my job to go get it. I'm going to go get it. I respect everybody's comments. I respect everybody's ideals. And I respect anybody who believes that we have an issue or creating a problem or an odor nuisance in this community. I can't talk too much on that because there's still some litigation. We're getting past that. But there is a lot of benefit from the landfill. And I just want to make sure that the people have the opportunity to come up and know that they can walk into my office anytime, 5 days a week, and ask any question they want to. They can get in my truck with me and they can take a tour. They can look at our trash and stand right next to it. They can look at our berms. They can look at our soil buttress. They can look at our new cells and our future cells, and they can ask any questions they want to. My door is always open, and this community needs to know that, and we need to get more people involved in making sure they come up and ask the right questions to satisfy their mind. So I'm going to shut up.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Unless you've got more questions, I'll keep going.
Just to clarify, the new waste coming into, will be from King's Waste is residential trash,
Yes.
right?
So they're actually walking floor trucks. So we have some ideas and plans to make sure that we reduce traffic. So we're not allowing them to come in until after 8 a.m. And then we may address the council in the future about pushing up maybe a half an hour or an hour later to stay open if it doesn't work and we have to justify a timeline for those trucks coming in. There's a whole process.
Well, when do you expect that waste to start coming in?
April 1st. So I'm surprised my phone hasn't blown up yet, but I'm sure that it will. I'm proud of what we went and got. I've been working this angle for 5 years. Whenever I first came in, my first question was, why don't we receive MSW from King's Waste and Recycling Authority? And I think that was the dream and the vision of somebody I know that used to sit in here. Melissa Witten. Awesome vision, because she had it, she's seen it. It's not full circle, but it's 3/4 circle. I'm gonna make sure that I complete that circle for her and for Scott Schreiber, who stood in here 15 years ago and said that I promise this expansion will bring revenue. There were some unexpected things that happened that derailed that along the way. It's coming back.
Thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome.
I'll be seeing you.
Sorry, yeah, come on up, get your tour, man. But
Thank you.
sorry I chattered on, but I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everything you guys do. So
Thank you for
you
all
guys
those
have my card.
details.
You guys know my phone number. Call me anytime. Come and see me.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, George.
Yeah. Thank you.
That was the news. That's why I was